About a year ago, my wife and I transitioned to living on one income, and it was one of the best financial decisions we ever made. That being said, it was a difficult transition. It's hard going from two incomes to one income. And if that's a situation that you're pursuing or you're getting ready to move to living on one income, then in this video, I'm going to share 9 strategies to help you live on one income and still save money. So let's get to it. All right, so tip number 1 is live on a zero-based budget. I harp on this all the time on our blog and on this YouTube channel. If you want to live on one income or you just want your financial life to be a simpler, more fulfilling thing, then you need to live on a zero-based budget. You need to know how much money is coming in, how much money is going out, and you need to plan for every dollar that you spend throughout the month. So if you want to live on one income, in particular, as your expenses or as your income is reduced, you need to reduce your expenses, you need to control your money better, and living on a zero-based budget is the best way to do that. If you're unfamiliar with a zero-based budget, essentially what you do is you start with your income, you subtract your giving and saving, and then you plan out how much you use your budget to plan out every expense after that at the beginning of the month so that you can live off of the money that remains after you give and save. So that's sort of a high-level overview about living on a zero-based budget. But if you're living on one income, it is essential that you get specific with your budget and live on a zero-based budget. All right, number 2, this is key. I can't tell you how key this is. You need to get out of debt. If you're still living on 2 incomes and you have time to get out of debt on 2 incomes, I highly recommend doing that before you transition to one income. Now, if you are moving to one income already, if you're in the middle of that transition or you've already transitioned, then still try and make it as much of a priority as you can. Put as much money towards getting out of debt as you can. I realize that it might make your life a little bit more difficult in the short term, but the sooner you get out of debt, all that money you're putting towards debt payments can then go towards savings. It'll increase your financial margin, decrease your financial stress, and just allow you to live a more fulfilling life on one income. All right, number 3, and that's prioritize an emergency fund. So once you get out of debt, or really, before you get out of debt, I really like the Dave Ramsey method where you save $1,000 starter emergency fund, then you get out of debt, and then you build a really big 6-month emergency fund. I like that method because it gives you a little bit of room for error with that $1,000 while you're getting out of debt. If you want to live on one income, having an emergency fund is essential. I can't tell you how important it is because if something happens like a medical expense, for instance, my wife and I, we just had a baby a couple months ago. Our daughter ended up in the NICU, which was something that obviously no parent wants. She had some health struggles, and with those health struggles come medical bills. And luckily we had prepared, and we have an emergency fund that, in fact, we prepared throughout the time my wife was pregnant and saved a little extra towards our emergency fund, so we didn't even have to touch our normal emergency fund. But prioritizing an emergency fund is essential when you live on one income, just because when you have less income, there's more risk involved. You're hit with an unexpected expense. So prioritize saving an emergency fund, make it a prominent part of your budget as soon as you can, and just get after it. All right, number 4, and this is going to ruffle a lot of feathers out there, I know, but cut up your credit cards. I'm not telling you to close the accounts. I'm not going to go that far, but cut up your credit cards because credit cards come with the risk of interest. And credit cards also allow you to spend money that you don't have. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that say, well, I need a credit card just in case of an emergency, right? Well, if that's the case, then why do people have so many credit cards from retail stores, right? Why do you have a TJ Maxx credit card for emergency funds or for emergencies? There's no reason for that. I'm going off on a tangent, I digress there, but cut up your credit cards because it just eliminates a lot of potential risk in your financial life. If you are only able to spend money that you have, right, that's sitting in your checking account or money that you have in cash, if you're only able to ever spend money that you have on hand, then you can't go into debt, right? I mean, you can't go into credit card debt. So cut up your credit cards. Eventually, and if you're in credit card debt, be sure to pay off all that debt like I mentioned previously, but cut up your credit cards. Don't risk that credit card debt. It's one of the worst forms of debt because it comes with such a high interest rate, and so many people just get locked into their credit card debt for such a long period of time. It's a financial life ruiner. It's a beast you need to kill, and so cut up those credit cards as soon as you possibly can. All right, number 5, plan and prep your meals for the week, every single week, right? If you plan your meals and you buy groceries and you prep your meals, it makes your life so much easier. You don't end up in that situation where you're talking to your spouse or whatever, or if you're single, where you're thinking, okay, what am I going to do for dinner tonight? You don't have the groceries for it, you don't have the food in your pantry, whatever it is, and you end up going and dining out someplace. If you're living on one income, you need to have a plan for your eating throughout the week. You need to plan and prep your meals. It'll make your financial life a lot easier. It makes living on one income easier. So just be sure to plan and prep your meals every single week. Okay, number 6, reduce your fixed expenses. Anything like car insurance, your cell phone bill, car payments. If you can get rid of that car payment, sell your car or whatever and buy something cheaper that you can pay cash for, whatever fixed expense you have, any expense that is the same amount that occurs every single month. Anytime you can reduce a fixed expense, it makes your life significantly easier because it permanently increases your financial margin, especially when you're living on one income. This is so important. So figure out what all your fixed expenses are, list them all out, and call up your insurance company. See if you can reduce your car insurance or your home insurance. If you're renting, move to a cheaper place. Your rent is a fixed expense. So if you can move to a cheaper place, you just reduced a major fixed expense. So that can be a great way to save money. If you are paying a mortgage that's a little too much for a family living on one income, then you might have to find a cheaper place to live, whether that's finding a rental for the time being until you can find a new house or whatever, or just moving to a smaller house. If you can reduce your mortgage, that's a great fixed expense that'll give you more financial margin, make your life easier living on one income. Figure out ways to reduce your fixed expense. This is one of the best ways to save a little extra money when you're living on one income. Okay, number 7, and I sort of alluded to this previously, but find a cheaper place to live. If you can reduce your rent or mortgage by a couple $100 even, or maybe $500 every single month, that can add up to massive savings, more financial margin, and less stress throughout your entire year. So just find a cheaper place to live. If you're spending too much, in general, we recommend that you spend less than 25%, on the very high end, 30% of your take-home pay. If it's more than that, then you should really consider finding a cheaper place to live, especially living on one income. It'll reduce your risk. It'll provide you with more peace of mind because you have more financial margin, and it'll make your life a lot easier. All right, number 8, start a low-cost side hustle. I'm not going to tell you to just start any kind of side hustle on the planet, especially something where you have to buy a bunch of inventory or whatever it is, or buy a bunch of equipment. If you can start a low-cost side hustle that brings in a couple $100 or maybe $1,000 or a couple $1,000s a month, that's a great way to supplement your main income when you're living on that one income. I realize that if you're making a second income through a side hustle, you're not technically living on one income, but you have some extra time in the day, or you find yourself watching a couple hours of TV every single day, turn that TV off. Get off of your social media, eliminate some of those distractions in your life, and start a side hustle, start a blog, start whatever it is. I don't start a YouTube channel, start an Instagram account that maybe, eventually you can build to a bigger following that you could get paid for some sponsorships. Whatever it is, just start working towards something, because if you can build a side hustle that doesn't start you any money or cost you very little money at the beginning, then there's not really a lot of risk there. There's just a whole bunch of upside. So start a low-cost side hustle if you're living on one income. That's what we did, and it's a phenomenal way to supplement your main income. All right, number 9 is focus on contentment. When you transition from 2 incomes to 1, you're eliminating a lot of your spending potential, let's just put it that way. And when you don't have as much spending potential or spending power, you can't do quite as many fun things. Maybe you can't go on as many vacations or a vacation at all for a little while, whatever it is. But if you can focus on contentment and being happy with the things you have and being grateful and positive about your life and the fact that maybe you're able to stay home with your kids, that's an amazing thing. That's one of the things my wife and I value most about living on one income, is she gets so much quality time with our kids. We don't have to send them to daycare. Therefore, the kids aren't sick constantly. There's a lot of benefits. If you can stay focused on the benefits of living on one income, it'll make living on one income such a more positive experience. So focus on contentment, follow those other 8 tips that I gave you throughout this video, and I promise living on one income doesn't mean you won't be able to save money anymore. It doesn't mean that you won't be able to pursue your financial dreams. There's a lot of really cool benefits with living on one income. So there you have it. The 9 tips to live on one income and still save money. I really hope these help you. I really hope these help you live on one income and enjoy it and get the most out of it. If you're looking for a little more financial inspiration, be sure to watch a couple of these other videos, hit that like button. And if this is your first time with us, don't subscribe yet. Watch a couple more videos, get to know us a little bit. We just met, but do hit that like button. We're okay with that. All right, see you in the next video.